With that, welcome you inside this edition of Big Ten Today, presented by Rally House. Rick Pizzo, Coach Dave Wanstead, as promised, your guy, your fellow Yinzer, Kirk Ferentz, joining us a little bit later. He'll likely set the record on Saturday night. We'll talk about that. I'm guessing some conversations about your hometown of Pittsburgh will come to the forefront.
You see all these notes? You think these are for the show? This is all for Kirk.
Those are all about Pittsburgh food and take some trips down memory lane.
Iron City beer and Permane Brothers. Oh, yeah, the whole gambit. No, it'll be good. This will be fun.
We even have, and I'm not going to ruin the surprise here, a picture of Kirk from yesteryear that we've gotten a sneak peek at that, trust me, you do not want to miss. That's coming up a little bit later in the show. But we begin with the big story presented by Rally House, and it is, in fact, the start of conference play this weekend on the lakefront. Number 4, Oregon, takes its high-octane offense to Evanston to take on Northwestern. The Ducks, the only team in the FBS ranked in the top 10 in scoring offense and scoring defense. How about USC and Purdue? There are a lot of questions surrounding both these teams. Barry Odom off to a 2-0 start. Lincoln Riley has USC looking like a different team. And speaking of different, while we've had some great non-conference games over the first couple of weeks, Big Ten play just hits different.
I'd say Big Ten football is the best in the country just because I call it ground and pound football. It's probably the toughest football you'll see in the country.
Noah Whittington just ran over everybody.
It's a knockout, drag out every single week.
And that is a massive hit.
The level of play at the line of scrimmage, the high level quarterback play.
We just do it better. That's the only thing I can say.
The quality of teams, the history of these programs.
There's no question that the Big Ten has the most talent. It's going to be a battle every single week.
It doesn't matter who you put out there. As long as it's another team in the field, I'm ready to go.
Let's start in West Lafayette. Purdue taking on USC. We'll get to the job that Barry Odom has done early on because the Boilermakers have checked every box their first-year head coach has wanted them to check. But, man, USC has looked really good. I know the level of competition hasn't necessarily been there, Dave, but Jaden Mayava has been terrific. And USC is playing with a little bit more of a physicality, I think, than we've seen in the previous years under Lincoln Riley.
Yeah, you're right. Obviously, the passing game, I mean, that's what everybody gets excited about, particularly out there. Having coached at USC, they want to see points. They want to see excitement. And Jaden's off to a great start. I mean, 73% completion ratio. Doesn't get much better than that, honestly. And he's got playmakers. But the thing that I see with the offense is they're executing. I'm not seeing the drop passes. They would have guys open in the pass and they wouldn't make the catch, or they would be offsides and they'd be behind the chains, as we say. Where now, boy, they look like a well-oiled machine on offense. And you said it, Rick, when you said about the physicality. I mean, there was people talking about their offensive line potential Joe Moore Award. So when you look at them, I looked it up, and this is the interesting thing. Their offensive line, there's not a portal guy starting in that group. Those are guys that have been there. Majority of them have been recruited there. And so they have developed and they've grown with this offense. And it's been a while. You talk about, I don't care who you're playing, you run the ball for 300 yards in a game, that's going to give you a chance to win a lot of games. And Lincoln did that. When you go back, just pull the numbers up when he was at Oklahoma, he was balanced, but they would run the football. So, offensively, that's got to be his mindset. He's got to stay with that and not get caught up in the passing part of it too much.
There was a lot of conversation. If there was a criticism of him last year as a play caller, it was that he went away from the run too quickly. Yep. Woody Marks was a guy that a lot of folks felt should have been more impactful but didn't necessarily get those carries. That won't be the case this year. It appears, at least, though certainly Jaden Mayava, a remarkably talented guy. As for Purdue, you look at Ryan Brown and the start that he's off to. Yeah. If you're a first-year head coach like Barry Odom, and you're basically starting from scratch, you have, 60 transfer guys to start the year? It is a complete and total rebuild. Your quarterback has to be good, But it's not just that. It's what Odom is asking of the guys. They're the little things, and so far, all those little things are exactly what Purdue has done.
Two things that I've been impressed with Coach Barry Odom there. Number one, there's an old expression, you win the games you're supposed to win, okay? And he has done that. 2-0, obviously we know that. But the other thing, you don't hear him, and I listened to his press conferences, you don't hear him talk about, oh, we ran for 300 yards or we threw for 5. You know, he's not into the numbers. What numbers he's into, how many penalties did we have? How many turnovers did we have? You know, these are the things that they can control, and that's how you set a foundation for a team. When you go in new, hey, you know, the points are going to come, the stats are going to come. But right now, let's make sure that we're not beating ourselves. You know, are we taking care of the football? Or are we disciplined? Are we not doing crazy things that hurt our production on offense and defense? And that's all I hear him talking about. So I love the foundation that he's building right there to Purdue. I really think he's doing it the right way.
And if there is anybody out there who knows maybe how to slow down Jaden Mayava, it would be Barry Odom, because, yes, he's a defensive guy first and foremost, but when he was head coach at UNLV in 2023, you know what quarterback was on the roster? Yes.
If it wasn't for watching the shows early in the week,
well,
I would not have known that.
That's why you get educated by watching Big Ten Today. All right, transition to the other Big Ten game this weekend. It's Oregon and Northwestern. The Ducks have been arguably the best team in the country through 2 weeks. And I know Ohio State beat number 1 Texas, but 69-3 over Oklahoma State is the largest margin of victory ever by an Oregon team against a power conference opponent. 7 different offensive players scored a touchdown. It's the kind of game film that I'm not sure David Braun and the Northwestern staff want to watch. Trust me, they did. And interestingly enough, Braun said no, his offense can't be conservative, try to keep the ball away from Oregon. In fact, he said it has to be the exact opposite.
We're going to have to score points. You know, I mean, that's very clear. How do you do that in a strategic way that positions the offense to finish drives with touchdowns, you know, and ultimately doesn't expose your defense to more snaps than you would want? Like, ultimately, the thought of Oregon's offense having, you know, 85 snaps in a game, like that's a scary thought. You know, like we just, it all has to tie together. But the biggest mistake you can make is become so passive that you don't even allow your offense an opportunity to find ways to score points. We've started those discussions already. It's going to have to be something that between all 3 phases as a coaching staff we're super aligned with.
Okay, Dave, I hear that. Mm-hmm. I understand what David Braun is saying. You don't want your team to go in. You don't want your team to play scared. You don't want the coaches to have a conservative game plan. But at the same time, you just lost Cam Porter for the year, arguably your best player on offense. Preston Stone, against the one really good team that Northwestern played, Tulane, threw 4 picks. I know you don't want to just run it 3 times and give the ball back to Oregon and try to chew up clock. But if you try to go toe-to-toe with Oregon, play for play, offense versus offense, I don't think that's going to work out very well for the Cats.
No, first of all, I agree with you. I totally agree. In fact, I wrote here, take the air out of the football. We're talking about throwing it, so that doesn't work.
You guys aren't on the same page, right, apparently.
But no, I mean, I get what Coach is saying right there. And the first thing, though, I'm going to back up and tell our players this because, you know, the big noon coming in, and it's going to be so much hype, and Oregon is like, you know, Big Ten champs. I mean, there's so much against them from a outside noise that I would tell the team this. We don't have to be the best 11 players, the most 11 players on the field. But for 3 hours, we need to play like the best 11. And try to tighten this thing up and say, don't worry about the scoreboard. Don't worry about what Oregon's doing. Let's just do what we can do to the best of our ability and execute. That's their best chance. Now, on the other side, you said Cam Porter. I agree with you. Now, there's ways to throw the ball, movement passes where you can get the ball out, which is what Preston Stone did a lot of that at SMU, where they would roll the quarterback out and dump the ball and get the ball out. You're not throwing it 40 yards down the field, but you are moving the chains. You are using the clock. And to me, Northwestern needs to try to shorten this game.
I agree.
You know, they got to try to shorten this game as much as they can, and that's one way to do it on offense. But when I look at this, every big game that I think of Northwestern winning, particularly at home, I think defense. Defense. I picture those kids coming up with a great interception or deflecting a ball or coming up with a sack. So to me, I'm going to put it on the defense and say, you know what? We are not going to give up a big play. Okay? I mean,
good luck with that.
Well, coach, that's what we got to do. If we want to win, in the last 3 plays, they've given up only 3 plays over, 15 yards. They've done a good job of that starting off. Okay? So you can't give up big plays on defense. And guys, we have to play like we haven't played. We got to create some turnovers within the defensive scheme. So
I love this because you can tell, right? When Wani gets into game plan mode, he starts calling me coach. The last time I coached was when my kid was 11 and we were playing T-ball in Little League. But when he gets into the game plan mode, everybody's coach. You are coach. Trust me. If you get called coach and you're viewing, he's actually talking to you.
Well, I'm being, what can we control? We can control, obviously, the penalties, the turnovers, and our effort. And I would put a defensive scheme in where we're going to stay on top of people and make Oregon go the long, hard way.
Quickly, I do want to get to Oregon real quickly because you have been remarkably impressed by what Dan Lanning has done in replacing star after star, Heisman Trophy quarterback after Heisman Trophy quarterback. There's no slowing down either traditional recruiting or transfer portal.
No, the last 3 years he's been in the top 5 with high school kids and portal. So you're right. He's getting the players and then they're coaching them the right way and they got a great culture. We know all that. But when I they have matured about as fast as any big team in the Big Ten. In fact, Purdue might be the other one. If you said what 2 teams have matured where I said, wow, I didn't expect that, it would be Oregon and it would probably be Purdue, to be quite honest with you. And, and a lot to do with that is the quarterback. And you mentioned him sitting on the bench. That's the way it used to be. Yeah. The backup would sit there and he would learn in meetings and hear and coaching. And then he would go out and he would be ahead of it rather than show up in January or spring practice and say, you're the starter. Not only do you have to perform well, but you got to be the leader of this team. So they got the right formula. They've got the quarterback that obviously has been there in the system. He's playing lights out. And they're always going to be good on defense. I mean, defensively, that's Dan Lanning. That's his wheelhouse. Yep. So that's where he spends the majority of his time. And, boy, they are explosive. When they came into the Big Ten, everybody said, are they going to be tough enough? 3 plays in a cloud of dust, Big Ten.
Oh, they're tough.
So they show up last year and they win the Big Ten. Now it's almost, think about it now, from a distance, they're almost saying, you want to keep up with us? We're going to be a fast team.
And they have a chip on their shoulder because all the attention preseason was Ohio State and Penn State. You make a great point about the quarterback, though, going from Nix to Gabriel and now to Moore. You went back to your Miami days, and I'll get this order wrong, but it was something like Kelly to Kozar to Testaverde to Walsh and all those great guys. Was that right?
Right on.
Was it 4 in a row? Right Coach, on. See? There we go again. Sharon Moore's school-imposed 2-game suspension. Michigan will be without Moore against the Chips. Associate head coach Biff Poggi, former head man at Charlotte, now in his second stint with the Wolverines, will wear the head coach's headset for Saturday's matchup against Central. Don't think it's a huge ask for Michigan against this particular Central Michigan team, but it is a different look. Poggi's been a head coach, though, Dave. Right. He was a head coach at Charlotte. He was famous for going sleeveless. We've been informed he will be wearing full sleeves for Saturday's game in Ann Arbor. I think the bigger question is, how does Bryce Underwood get treated in this game? Does it look any different under OC Chip Lindsey when it's not Sharon Moore, the former OC and offensive line coach, as the head guy?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but Sharon Moore is going to be at practice all week, right?
No, so Sharon Moore, this is unlike the Jim Harbaugh suspension.
Practice. No practice.
Now he is he's away from the team.
Away from the team. Okay, so there's some way they're communicating. So the plan will be set. He's going to know, Lindsey's going to know Chip's going to know exactly what Sharon wants to do at the end of the day. And then I think that the advantage to this is both coordinators are calling the play. Biff is he's not calling the offense. He's not calling the defense. So his main responsibility is going to be obviously the challenges and the timeouts and go for it or don't go for it. And now with analytics, they'll be able to take some pressure off him that way. So he'll have a plate full, yes, from a head coach's responsibility. But I think it's a lot better than if he was in a situation where he was calling the plays as offensive coordinator and at the same time taking on the head coach responsibility. So they need, this is what I hope for from Michigan. The defense, I'll tell you, Wink is going to be fine. Don't even worry about that. It's not easy to replace 4 starters that were all top 4 rounds in the NFL draft.
Yeah, into last year's draft.
So he is replacing some guys. I don't want to make light of that, they just got it all rolling. So he is replacing some key guys. So they know what they want to do. They've got their foundation. Offensively, though, I'm still trying to be exact on what are they on offense. What do they? I think they kind of cleaned.
Well, what do you want them to be? What do you want to see them do with Underwood?
I would move him some. And everybody talks about the coaches. Oh, the coach don't tell me when you move the quarterback, the field. All this clinic talk. The field gets cut in half and all that. But guess what? When you got a guy that's an athlete like Bryce is, yes, the field's cut in half, but the reads are a lot easier. You got a freshman kid. Get him on the move a little bit, and you got 1 or 2 receivers who are going to make the throw, but he always has the option to run, Rick. He can tuck the ball and run. So it's built in there, a little run-pass option, high percentage throws. Get him some confidence. You cannot end up with 3 out of 15 third and fourth down conversions.
Well, and let's be fair.
You're not going to win.
You're a freshman on the road against a really good Oklahoma defense. They were not giving him the entire playbook last week. They were trying to make sure that it was digestible, that it was as easy as possible. This is a different scenario against Central Michigan at home than it was against Oklahoma on the road. Speaking of on the road, Wisconsin goes on the road to face Alabama. Now, as we saw in week 1, this may not be one of the great Nick Saban Alabama teams from the 2000s. Still a really dangerous place to play against a really good team. And while the injury report isn't final, word is it's very unlikely that Billy Edwards sees the field. So it'll be O'Neal again at quarterback for Wisconsin. What do we need to see from the Badgers in this particular game to make you believe that it's the year they can turn it around?
Well, if there is a way to take advantage of Alabama on the road with the noise, keep everything under control for a new starting quarterback virtually, it's running the ball. And that's Alabama's weakness. I mean, they're giving up 160 yards on the ground.
Hard to believe, isn't it?
Unbelievable. So if I'm Luke Fickell, I'm saying, hey, we want to keep pressure on. That's going to fit into our game plan perfectly. Let's see what we can do, because we don't want to put our quarterback out there with the noise and the atmosphere and fall behind at Alabama. So let's take the air out of it a little bit, as we say. Let's control it. Let's run the football. I like we're on the other side of the ball. I think that Luke has finally got things where he feels a lot better than he ever has with the defense. I think their defense...
We need a defensive coach.
Yeah, and they've been solid the last couple of weeks. The first year, was a little bit of this and a little bit of that, co-coordinators plus the head coach. I think he's tightened everything up on defense. I feel good about the defense. I really do. And offensively, to take a little bit of pressure off of Danny O'Neal, hey, let's take advantage of this and let's go block these guys and run the football. That's where it's at.
Yeah. Hey, you know who likes to run the football? The Ohio Bobcats. And they do it in a pretty unique way. They have a terrific quarterback in Parker Navarro. The bad news for Ohio, they're facing the number 1 team in the country in Ohio State. The good news, if you are going to be a giant slayer, you have to find different ways to do it, and Ohio can do that. We saw them take Rutgers right down to the edge in week 1. They knocked off one of your former nemesis in West Virginia last week. This is a really good Ohio team. Ohio State, I think, has to have everything screwed on tight and be ready for this matchup.
Yeah, and the challenge that I see this week, it's always good when you got a new offensive coordinator, Brian Hartline, every game that he can make adjustments X and O wise is fantastic. It's experience for him. So put that on one side. On the other side, Matt Patricia. I remember when, after 16 years in the NFL, when I went back to coach Pitt, I said to myself, oh, these passing games are simple.
In comparison to the NFL.
Comparison to the NFL. The run game in college, I said, whoa, let's meet on this. Let's talk through this here now, and let's take a look how people are defending. I think the running game in college is a lot more sophisticated than it is in the NFL. The NFL's run game is pretty darn simple. They have all these quarterback runs, but very few of the quarterbacks or the owners or head coaches want the quarterback running the ball. Very few of those teams. Where I think in college it's a big part of it. So this will be a little bit different. The point I'm making is Matt Patricia facing a quarterback and an offense that does it as good as anybody that we've seen so far. They're going to have a good plan, and it's going to test them a little bit, which is going to be good. It's going to be good for them.
Of course, Ohio State's defense has given up, 7 points? So far this year, 7 points to Texas, shut out in week 2 against a completely overmatched opponent in Grambling. But I got to tell you, I think this game, at least early on, this game could be a little bit surprising for some folks. I don't think Ohio can cover Jeremiah Smith. I don't think they can cover Carnell Tate. And Ohio State has the better talent. But this should be interesting for at least a little bit.
This will be a good game for Matt Patricia and that defensive staff because it's a different type of offense.
Yes.
This will help them down the road.
Yes.
This will be a good one get some thoughts together, which will help you obviously win the game, but it's going to help you down the road in the Big Ten.
Listen, I think it's a great game scheduling-wise for Minnesota. Maybe not time-wise because you're at, 9:30 local time, 7:30 out west against Cal. Right. But it's a Cal team that you're probably better than. Your defense has been really good. But, Dave, let's be honest. Minnesota has not really been tested. A little bit in week 1 because that Buffalo team will be a factor, I think, inside the MAC. Northwestern State in week 2 is one of the worst teams that we've seen in a long time, and Minnesota made them look that way. They're going to have to be on their P's and Q's. You're going out west. Your body clock isn't exactly used to it. P.J. Fleck is one of those coaches. He likes to spend as little time as possible at road locations so they won't be there acclimated to the time. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, I think it's, you said it, it's the travel, it's the time. This is a good test. I mean, I like this game for PJ. I really do in Minnesota. I mean, because Cal is going to be a step up, obviously, for Big 12 from what they've, ACC from what they've been playing. So that's going to be good from a talent standpoint. And I think right now, PJ is feeling they're starting to really get that identity of the team. They got the quarterback that's making progress, but they've kind of leaning back on that running game, which they're going to run the ball. They made plays in special teams. Their defense, I want to give Danny Collins a little bit of love. I mean, PJ's gone through like a defensive coordinator leaves every year, all right?
But let's clear up why. Because their defense has been so good that they're wanted by other places. You got Rossi now at Michigan State, Rob Smith back at Rutgers.
100%. But I think Danny Collins really has done a great job. He really has. They've got a few more wrinkles, a few more pressures that they didn't do last year. They're making some plays on defense, creating turnovers. So it's a good feel right now. Offense, defense, and special teams. So this will be a good test for them. They go out there and play well, beat Cal. They're going to be ready for Big Ten competition.
Need a healthy Darius Taylor. He was injured early in that game against Northwestern State, a guy who has been so effective but has battled injuries throughout much of his Minnesota career, and they love to use him and use him a lot. Happy to run him 30 times a game if need be. Certainly hope they don't need that this weekend against Cal. It is a late game out in Berkeley as the Gophers take on the Bears. They are numbers that we have talked about a lot over the past couple of years. Really, as we knew Kirk Ferentz would get to this number, and it is the number 206. His next win will pass Woody Hayes and make Ferentz the winningest coach in the history of the Big Ten. Look at some of the names he has already passed: Joe Paterno, Bo Schembechler, Amos Alonzo Stagg. And we are absolutely thrilled for the big interview before that potential record setter on Saturday night against UMass right here on the Big Ten Network to be joined by Kirk Ferentz. Kirk, how much are you looking forward to getting that win, if for nothing else than for us to stop talking about it?
As much as anything, that's a start right there. So, and first of all, I appreciate you showing footage proving that I did have dark hair at one time. I was young, 25 years ago. So, yeah, it's been, it'll be good to get it done with, quite frankly, because as you imagine, our focus right now is on this season and this team, rightfully so. But I do respect the fact that it's almost amusing in some ways that it has happened, because this was never my goal to be a head coach or to find myself in this position. But it all gets down to I was really fortunate. A lot of people during my time growing up really helped me out and gave me great mentorship. And then, you get in the profession, and lucky enough to get out here and be around a lot of great people, players, staff, support staff, so many people. As Dave can tell you, in football, it takes a lot of people to make things work. And then, the last part, my wife's always been very, very supportive, and I don't take that for granted.
Well, Kirk, you mentioned this year's team, so let's dive into it. Your assessment through 2 weeks of the offense as a whole, and specifically the transfer quarterback Mark Gronowski, who's now played 2 games for you.
Yeah, like typically in September, we're a team in motion. We're just trying to figure out who we are, what we are, and it's really not unusual. It's kind of funny. I heard Brian Hoyer on the radio yesterday morning when I was driving in, talking about when they were in New England, they always felt like it was 4 to 6 weeks to really figure out what each team was. And you think about that, they had Brady playing quarterback. So that is part of football for most teams, and certainly it is for us. I think our guys have shown up and played hard. They've competed hard both weeks, and last week was disappointing, but the final analysis, we lost by 3 points to a veteran team that had a veteran quarterback, and they're comfortable with who they are. We weren't good enough to make the plays you need to make. So the focus for us is just on daily improvement. Doesn't really change, and hopefully showing up on Saturdays ready to compete.
Hey, Kirk, did the one area that seems to come together quicker since you've been there is that defensive side of the football, and with between yourself and Phil Parker, and you've had a lot of guys get drafted first-round players off that defense, and you seem to get back on course about as fast as anybody possibly could, and it's so consistent. When you say Iowa football, the first thing that comes to my mind is, hey, they're going to be good on defense. Is there one thing between yourself and Phil that you would say, this is the cornerstone why we play good defense every year in and year out?
Yeah, I referenced, I grew up as an offensive coach, basically, starting 1980 when I got to work with Coach Moore. Became a line coach and, worked on the offensive side of the ball the rest of my career, even though I played defense and coached defense initially. But, the people you're around, the mentors you're around, including Joe Moore, always believed, at least the guys I've known that are winners, believe in defense, believe in special teams. That's something I really learned to appreciate during my time in the NFL, because I didn't have much of an appreciation for it prior to that. And then, then after that, just playing smart football and develop the offense as you go based on your personnel. But to answer the question, it really gets down to one of the smartest things I've ever done. I've done a lot of dumb things, but hiring Norm Parker, we had 3 outstanding candidates, and they all would have worked out great. But Norm was just such a special guy. And, 27 years ago, I was not fixated on we had to be a 3-man or a 4-man front, but I just wanted us to be a defense that was going to play blocks and, hustle to the ball, take smart angles, and tackle well. And Norm just did such a great job of, I think, laying a foundation. Fortunately, Phil, and this is probably never going to happen again, Phil's been here each and every day for 27 years as an assistant and grew into the coordinator role and just does an outstanding job. So I think we're in sync, philosophically. But Phil's just a tremendous coach, and we've got a really good staff. And I think there's consistency in what we do. And the bottom line is, this year we've got a lot of new faces. Our linebacker position's kind of interesting. We got 3 seniors that have never started, but they know the system. They know what they're doing, and I'm going to be anxious to see how they grow as the season goes on.
Kirk, you thanked us earlier for showing pictures of you with what you referred to as dark hair. I'm going to take it even one step further, and we are going to take you way back. We have a photo from the yearbook of Upper St. Clair High School. And you have to take a peek at the hair that you're rocking, because it is not just dark, but we are talking about some quality hockey hair, shoulder length stuff. Why did we decide to go away from this look?
Yeah, so I had a mullet before mullets were popular, actually, and Jenny's Dunker, our right tackle, has a redheaded mullet, actually, so he's kind of a unique guy. But there are actually two pictures. I had that one like that was in my yearbook, and then I also pulled my hair back and took it so it looked like it does right now for my mom, and she got to send that to all her relatives and her friends. So, I tried to appease both crowds on that one. But yeah, I've kind of gotten away from that look, and back in the day, we had to get a crew cut every year before football. So I'd get a crew cut, and then the rest of the year I cut it myself, only from the front because I'm not very ambidextrous, and that's what it came out to be. I wasn't trying to make a statement. That's just what it is.
So good. Hey, Gary, I had nothing to do with those pictures, okay? I'm just sitting there. But let me ask something. You mentioned back in high school, this time of year, everybody's talking about and promoting their teams for the Joe Moore offensive line, best offensive line in college football. Your guys have won it once. We know that. You were the original guy that started this award. Just take us back, take our viewers back on your relationship with Joe Moore, and then the award, how the whole thing kind of came together.
I was devastated as a junior in high school. They fired our head coach, Bill Merritt, who was an outstanding coach. We had just moved up to the Western Conference, Dave, and you all know that because you played in it, and that was the elite conference in Western Pennsylvania, and I think we were 5-3-1 my junior year. But it was kind of a political thing. He had gotten crossways with a board member and, backroom glory and all that stuff. So anyway, I was kind of devastated. I had my parents convinced we should move to another township or town and just, go to a different school. And lo and behold, Joe Moore got hired. It was in May or June. Going into my senior year, I went to one meeting and that was it. I knew this guy was special. So I got to play for him as a senior. I'm probably the only senior of his only losing team. Certainly his only losing team at Upper St. Clair. They're actually celebrating a couple championship teams this weekend, but we were 4-5 my senior year. And I came back, during breaks when I was in college. And then after 2 years teaching, I got to work with Joe in 1980 at Pitt. It was his first year as line coach there. And it was just an unbelievable year, great education for me. And he did more for me professionally and personally probably than any person outside of my mom and dad. So we're indebted to him. A lot of things I believe in as a coach. It all goes back to tracing it there. And when I came here 27 years ago, my goal was to run this like a great high school program. And in my mind, I had played in a great high school program at Upper St. Clair. So that was kind of the model. And there's not a day I don't go by thinking of Joe. The award itself, fast forward, I used to go watch Joe coach during the spring at Pitt during the 80s. And then when he went to Notre Dame, when I was in Cleveland, I'd drive over and watch. And Aaron Taylor was a young guy I played for him. And Aaron and I had never met till probably 10, 15 years ago. And we talked on the phone. And our commonality was Aaron said the man most influential in his life, two people, were Bob Ladouceur, his high school coach, and then Joe Moore at Notre Dame. So, I shared that sentiment of, Joe being the impact he had on my life. Aaron's really been the driving force behind the award. He's the guy doing all the hard work to make it go. And I'm so appreciative of his efforts. And, we just had a summit, if you will, back in Dallas that he called. And it was a great meeting. So we're trying to make sure this thing exists forever because it's the only award collegiately and probably in sports that honors a group, not just an individual. And I think that's what teamwork's all about. Football is all about teamwork. So that to me is the real added significance of it. And I think we can hopefully all take pride in seeing that thing live on.
One last question here from me. I was at the Bears head coach. You were the offensive line coach for the Cleveland Browns with Bill Belichick, and we worked together in the summer. What would be one thing, having worked for Bill Belichick, if there was one thing that you took from him that you're still doing as a coach, what would it be, Kurt? Is there one thing that jumps at you?
Yeah, there's a million things, Dave, as you can imagine, and you know him well too. So it was a treat for me. That was my first camp, and we went out there 3 times and worked against you guys, and that was a great experience too, just to learn from each other. Our staffs getting together and talking football, and that was a cool thing about the NFL. Every day was just such a an adventure that way to learn. And but yeah, being around Coach Belichick for 3 years and Just an amazing experience. His organizational skills are unbelievable, and his mind is usually about 10 days ahead of mine. That's for sure. Maybe more. But the biggest thing I think about him that I appreciate was his consistency. And as you know, the NFL, boy, it's not week to week. It's day to day. There's so many ups and downs in an NFL season, and it goes forever. But his consistency and approach, personality, and just everything about him helps stabilize things. And he's an excellent teacher, an excellent listener, just an excellent leader. But it's the consistency that he operated on, or the level he operated at, was just so impressive. And we did have some peaks and valleys. When they let Bernie Kosar go, that was a unbelievable thing in '93, and then when the move was announced. But Bill was the same guy every day, and the focus was always on improvement and trying to move forward as an organization or as a team.
Well, Kirk, I know that there are a lot of people that go into what we hope happens on Saturday night. You mentioned so many of them. We at the network have been lucky enough to be a very small part of it, watching a lot of these wins since 2007. And I'll say, as someone who has gotten to spend a lot of time with you covering your games, people ask me all the time what coaches are like. And when I describe you, I like to say he's the kind of guy, not just coach, but man, that you would feel 100% comfortable sending your son there for 4 years and knowing he is going to be a better person when he comes back from Iowa City than he was when you sent him there. I'm good friends with one of your former players, A.J. Eads. He said the exact same thing to me when I played golf with him a couple of weeks ago. So, Kirk, congratulations ahead of time. I'm not counting a win yet, but we can't wait until you get to 206. And thanks so much for the time.
Well, hopefully it will happen this year, hopefully. So it'll be good to get it behind. And again, I'm very respectful of the thing too. And there's so many people involved. But I appreciate your comments too. And just look at it. I've been really fortunate my entire life to be around good people. And whether it was the 9 years I was here as an assistant coach in the 80s and then being back the last 25 plus, it's the commonalities of people, just great people. And I think that's one cool thing you learn in coaching. Dave could attest to this. There's so many good people in football and so many good people just across our country. So to have a chance to interface with a lot of really neat people, it's been a real treat for me. And believe me, I appreciate how fortunate I've been.
Awesome. Kirk Ferentz going for 206 Saturday night against UMass. Tonight, football doubleheader on the Big Ten Network. First, Fernando Mendoza and the Hoosiers take on Indiana State. Then the Bruins host New Mexico at the Rose Bowl. Pre-game coverage with Mike Hall, Howard Griffith, Marcel Reese begins at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific time. Quick thoughts, Dave, on Indiana State should not be much of a test for the Hoosiers.
No, I think Kirk Ferentz was very happy after the game.
Kirk Cignetti.
I mean, they blocked the punt, rushed for 300 yards, and had 14 tackles for loss.
For UCLA, just win, baby.
Just win. Somehow get the whole team. We got to come together and play good.
Yeah, tough start. I mean, you play Utah at home to open the season, a really good Utes team, and then have to go to UNLV, team that won 10 games last season, and then Big Ten play after this one. You got to win.
Eliminate the turnovers and penalties.
Deshaun, doesn't matter how you win, just get a win. Enjoy the weekend.